things don't seem very bright right now. And I know that things can seem very scary in the world, at home, at school. There can be a lot of things that come together to make us lose a lot of hope. Not just world things, but even on just our lives. Even in, it could be our home life. Maybe sometimes our family isn't very supportive, to say the least. Maybe we don't have very good friends, or maybe we don't have friends at all. I'm gonna be honest with you. I tried to commit suicide when I was 20 years old, so that was 4 years ago. And at the time, I felt like I knew some of the things that I wanted. I wanted to have a group of friends. I wanted to have a really good romantic relationship. I wanted a family that cared about me. And it seemed like all of those things were behind this quadruple pane glass window that I would never be able to open. And I was looking around the room, and it all seemed so hopeless. How could I get from where I was to where I needed to be? I didn't have any friends around me. There were a couple people online, but they never quite seemed to get it. They just kept saying, get a good night's sleep and it'll all be better in the morning. But it wasn't just a bad night, it was everything. And my family kind of alternated between hating me and completely ignoring me. And my sister often told me to kill myself. And I thought, how could this ever get better? Because up until then, I was always miserable for one reason or another, and I saw that as proof that it would never get better. I didn't have a job, and I was living at home with my family, and they decided that if I wanted to use the car, including to try and go find a job, I needed to start paying them per mile. And I didn't have any money, and it just felt like, how am I ever supposed to get out of here? And so, like I said, that all seemed like a lot of proof that things would never change. How could they change? But that's not how it works. Life has a way of just changing and improving, but in ways that you can't really predict. You can't predict when a good person will come into your life, someone who might change things for you, help you change things for yourself. Just like you can't just say that mean or bad people will never let you go, that you'll never get away from them. You can't say that. Even if your entire life has been bad, you can't use that as proof that things will always be bad, because it doesn't work that way. Our past does not define or decide our future, and other people in our lives also don't decide that. it's not forever. And the reason I'm telling you all of this is because I want you to know that when I say that things can improve, I'm not just saying it from a do yoga and eat kale kind of point of view. That I've been through this, and I have friends who've been through this, and I get it. And I understand how much it can feel like it'll never get better. But I know that it does. That's all good and great. That if we accept that there's a possible future for us, then what about tonight? Because tonight, it's not done yet. It's not fixed yet. Well, today we manage. Today we get through it. And today we create good moments for ourselves. I've learned that life doesn't serve us happiness on a silver platter. I used to think that happiness was a stage of life. It was a status. It was a way of being, and either you're miserable and then one day things change and everything's okay and everything's perfect, and that from that point on I wouldn't have to deal with anything so difficult, that I wouldn't have to worry about things being so horrible. I wouldn't have to just cope with everything. But that's not how it works either. Yes, it is true that our environment is incredibly important to me. Living at my parents' house was going to affect my mental health, even if I tried to cope. And so our life needing to change in those kinds of ways, yes, that will indeed help us cope with less problems. But at the same time, learning how to create happiness for ourselves helps us get through those horrible times a little easier. And if we never learn how to cope with anything, especially if we've gone through a lot of bad stuff, then even when things shift, we'll still have a lot of unhealthy coping mechanisms. We'll still be responding in ways that maybe helped us survive but no longer really help, and they're unhealthy, and they create unhappy and unstable relationships with other people. And so it's really important to learn how to create good moments, because there's a really good quote that's relevant to this, and it's, "The wind that used to knock me down is just a breeze in my hair." And that's because if we learn how to cope with things, then eventually something happening that might have completely thrown us into a horrible spiral doesn't have to be that way. It's not that it isn't necessarily like sad or whatever, but it's that it doesn't knock us down, and that is incredibly important, because even if some bad things come your way, especially if they happen all at once, then if you can handle it so that, maybe you're kind of stressed out but you're still okay, versus being suicidal or just very depressed and things like that, that is a big difference, because one of those is very livable and the other one is like a recipe for a disaster. So we can create happiness for ourselves just as we can create misery for ourselves. And so maybe we have a messed up home life, or you're going through a bad breakup, or you're just desperately lonely. So that's awful. That's really bad. So why do we reread messages that just stab us in the gut? Why do we listen to songs that remind us of pain? Why do we Facebook profile to see if they're so happy without us? Why do we text them late at night when we desperately need their validation? Why do we lie down on the floor with the lights off, staring at the ceiling, purposely thinking of everything that we've done wrong and everything that's ever hurt us? Why do we do those things? Why do we just sit there and imagine the worst case scenario until we're sobbing and just covered in tears and falling apart? And why do we waste our time when we're spending time with someone important because we're obsessed with the fear that they're going to leave? But they're there right now. It's not happening right now. Why waste all of that time when you could just be having a good time with them? You're so desperately afraid of losing this good thing, but you're not even enjoying it while you have it. You're putting yourself through that pain, that as if they're already gone, but they're right there. You're afraid of losing it so much, so why are you taking that away from yourself? You're making yourself lose it when it's still there. You could be listening to an amazing song right now. You could be playing your favorite video game right now. You could be eating something delicious right now. You could be walking your dog right now or playing with your cat. You could be watching that new show right now, and sure, playing Super Mario won't fix those big problems that are affecting you, but they're not making it worse. At least you're giving yourself your best shot right now. At least you're not re-traumatizing yourself by repeating their shitty words to yourself. Give yourself your best shot. Anxious about not having done that homework yet, then just do it right now. It's not gonna be as bad as your anxiety is making you feel. Are you worried about tomorrow? You can deal with that tomorrow, 'cause right now is you time. Listen to ASMR, read a book, light a candle. Create a safe little bubble around yourself tonight. But right now you can do something fun. And hey, think about it. Being depressed or anxious while playing Firewatch is much better than being depressed or anxious lying down staring at the ceiling, drowning in your sorrow. And if it helps, imagine your 5-year-old self, and they're sitting in front of you, and think of all the stuff that you say to yourself. Could you say it to them? Could you just drag them like you drag yourself? Could you cut their arms up? Would you tell them that no one will ever love them? They're sitting there and they're watching you, learning from you. And what are you gonna say to them? What are you gonna tell them about what you'll do to them in the future? Do they deserve that? No. Of course not. Of course they don't, and of course you couldn't say that to them. I want you to hug them. Hug a pillow or wrap your arms around yourself. I want you to hold them close. I want you to say sorry to them. I want you to tell them that you didn't mean it. Tell them that you won't do it. Tell them that it's gonna be okay. And hold them close. stroke their face, and take a deep breath. They're not sitting there. You're hugging yourself. You're comforting yourself. You're apologizing to yourself. You're protecting yourself. And you need it. And you deserve it. And you're allowed to take care of yourself. You deserve it because 5-year-old you deserves it, and 5-year-old you is you. And why do we never realize that we're allowed to take care of ourselves? Why do we never realize that we're allowed to be on our own side? That we don't have to keep punishing ourselves over and over. Humans are the only creature that punishes themselves 1,000 times for the same mistake. You don't have to punish yourself. You've done your time, and you're never gonna improve. You're never gonna do better next time by hating yourself. I'm not gonna say that you're perfect and you've never made a mistake and you never should have to apologize for anything, but I do know that if you clearly know that you did something that you wish you hadn't done, you will repeat that mistake if you keep hating yourself, if you keep punishing yourself. I want you to think about a step-by-step list of how one improves themselves, and I'm pretty sure that step 1 isn't telling yourself that you're unloved, unwanted, ugly, a waste of space, and that no one would even care if you were gone. That would be some pretty crappy advice. When I tried to die, I was sitting there sobbing, begging for there to be one person, just one, to be in that room with me. Someone who cared about me. What I didn't realize until later was I could have been that person. The world is hard enough. You don't have to start kicking your own ass. You can do better. You deserve better. And anytime you find yourself wanting to hurt yourself, whether it's with words or something else, I want you to think of your 5-year-old self. Don't do it to them. They don't deserve it. And you define their future. Please stay safe and be strong. Everything's gonna be okay.